Thank you, Jim. Good evening. My name is Jason Perot, Chairman of the Northborough Board of Selectmen, and I call to order this May 23rd, 2022 meeting of the board. This open meeting of the Board of Selectmen is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the board are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the board to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. On the agenda, you will find the Zoom webinar link, Zoom audio link, and YouTube streaming, and government access channels for Northborough cable television. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, I'd like to now confirm everyone's connectivity. When I call your name, please unmute and respond in the affirmative. I am Jason Perot, Chairman. Scott Rogers, Clerk.
Present.
Julianne Hirsch, Member.
Present.
Kristen Wickstead, Member.
Present.
And I'd like to welcome our new member, Mitch Cohen.
Thank you. Present.
Thank you all very much. And now I'd like to verify connectivity for the members of staff who will be participating in the meeting. Members, when I call your staff members, when I call your name, please unmute and respond in the affirmative. You have Town Administrator John Coder.
Present.
Finance Director Jason Little.
Present.
And Public Works Director Scott Charpentier.
Present. Mr. Chairman, the fire chief's on vacation and the police chief is having a little trouble connecting in, so he may be popping in shortly.
Okay, thank you, John. Ground rules for the conduct of the meeting. The chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking. When speaking, please speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others, please request to do so through the chair. And each vote taken by the board this evening will be conducted by roll call. We can review the requirements for public participation when we reach the public comment portion of the agenda. All right. Actually, I take that back. We have a public hearing scheduled, so I may as well review that now. If you wish to participate in public hearing or public comment, if you're participating by the Zoom webinar, you can raise your hand when you wish to speak and be recognized. If you're participating through the Zoom audio only by phone, you can dial *9 to raise your hand. Chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify themselves by name and address, and the chair will call on each person, and each person will have 3 minutes for any comments they wish to present. I believe that concludes the preliminaries. And so turning to the agenda, the first item of business is the approval of the April 11, 2022 meeting minutes. I will note that the agenda had a typographical error referring to a March meeting date by mistake. The actual meeting minutes we are acting on here are the April 11, 2022 minutes. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Scott.
Thanks. I move we vote to approve the meeting minutes from April 11th, 2022 as presented.
Second.
Moved by Scott Rogers, seconded by Julianne Hirsch. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Kristen Wickstead?
Aye.
Julianne Hirsch?
Aye.
Scott Rogers?
Aye.
Mitch, you will be abstaining on this?
That's correct. Yes.
Abstention? Yep. And I, Jason Perot, vote aye, so carries 4 in favor with 1 abstention. It's now past the hour of 7 p.m. And our next item is the election of officers. Normally, we would turn this over to the town clerk, but John, my understanding is town clerk is not present at the moment.
Yes.
And in which case, would you care to conduct the election process?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So this is your annual reorganization following the election. So first order of business would be to open nominations for chairman.
Go ahead, Julianne.
I'd like to
Julianne?
nominate, I'd like to nominate Mitch Cohen for chairperson of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
I have a nomination by Julian Hirsch and a second by Kristen Wickstead. Are there any other nominations for chair? Seeing and hearing none. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of Mitch Cohen for chair? This be a roll call vote. I'll start with Julian Hirsch,
Aye.
Kristen Wickstead,
Aye.
Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Jason Perot,
Aye.
and Mitch Cohen.
I guess I have no choice. Aye. Thank you very much for the trust. I appreciate that.
Congratulations. Continuing on, I'll open nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Julianne Hirsch for vice chair.
Second.
So we have a nomination of Julian Hirsch for vice chair by Kristen Wickstead with a second by Jason Perot. Any other nominations for vice chair? Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of Julian Hirsch for vice chair? Kristen Wickstead,
Aye.
Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Jason Perot,
Aye.
Mitch Cohen,
Aye.
and Julian Hirsch.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The last slot open is clerk. We'll open nominations for clerk.
I'd like to nominate Kristen Wickstead for clerk of the Board of Selectmen.
We have a
Second.
nomination. Is there a second?
Second.
Jason Perot seconded. Any other nominations for clerk? Seeing and hearing none. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of Kristen Wickstead as clerk? We'll start with Julian Hirsch,
Aye.
Scott Rogers,
Aye.
Jason Perot,
Aye.
Mitch Cohen,
Aye.
and Kristen Wickstead.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so we have Mitch Cohen as chair, Julian Hirsch as vice chair, and Kristen Wickstead as clerk. That is our new reorg for this for this meeting. So at this point, do we want to turn the meeting over to the new chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may, for a minute.
Absolutely, Jason.
Congratulations. Look forward to the coming year. The motions that we typically draft in advance of the meeting were prepared earlier. Normally, the chair assigns those motions to the members of the board just to distribute that workload. In this circumstance, I would like to offer to read all of the motions this evening so that we can just bypass that and continue on with the meeting.
That's certainly fine with me, given you've had the last 3 years of not having to make any motion. You might as well make up
That's
for
right.
it now. Thank you for offering that, Jason. I appreciate
The backlog. And second, as we proceed through the agenda this evening, I'll be happy to assist with anything that that is unclear or requires clarification. So with that, I turn over the virtual gavel.
Thank you, everybody. Next up on our agenda is the public hearing for an all alcoholic beverages restaurant license as submitted by Northborough Main Street Cafe, DBA C'est La Vie Bistro for premises located at 30 Main Street. I will at this point open the hearing. I assume that, let's see, I still have to get used to the whole Zoom thing, so bear with me. Do we have anyone here or expected?
So I have moved Millie over as a panelist,
okay.
and I believe she is joining now.
Thank you very much for helping with that, Jim. Hi, Millie. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So we
Nice
have
to
open.
see you all.
We have opened the hearing. this is my first hearing, given this is my first board meeting. So I know that you've submitted all the applications, and it sounds appears from the paperwork that everything appears to be in order. John, is there anything that you wanted to describe to the board before I ask Millie for some comments?
Just for clarification, so this is a new license, which is why this is a public hearing. Abutters were notified of the public hearing via certified mail. All abutters, including schools and churches within a radius of 500 feet. Trinity Church was notified of the public hearing since it's within that radius. Also, I would mention that Lieutenant Brian Griffin conducted a background check and has no concerns to report at this time. And lastly, just in case the board is wondering, at this stage, we do have 5 all alcoholic licenses. So if approved tonight, this would take one of those 5 licenses. Okay.
So Millie, tell us a little bit about what you're planning at C'est La Vie with us, if you could.
Well, I think, I'd like to be able to offer a nice glass of wine or something for lunch. It seems very fitting with the French theme, or cortage, something that is, again, a little bit, light. I'm not looking to have anything along the lines of a boozy brunch or anything that's on the heavy side. So we're looking the hours to be basically start offering around 11:30, be done by 2:30, and keeping it kind of simple. But I have had a number of requests for people who ask if we have wine or champagne or once in a while Bloody Marys or things like that. So I'd love to see if we can offer that. But also we do some private events at night, and that's something that I feel that would also open up opportunities for offering alcohol.
Excellent. Thank you very much for submitting the thorough application. Members of the board, any comments or questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is anyone in the audience? Oh, I see a hand up. All right. Dan Derby, I will allow you to talk, is the button that it says. Dan, what's on your mind?
Hello, Dan Derby, 35 West Street. And my wife Brenda owns the abutting property at 24 Main Street. We love C'est La Vie. We go there often. I think alcohol license would be lovely. We do have 6 tenants in that abutting property, which is probably about maybe 50 feet from the deck.
Yes.
So I have some concern about alcohol being outdoors on the deck. And is there any discussion that we can have about that? I don't understand all of licensing, so I'm not sure if that license can go to somebody else if you don't want to manage it, or just preparing for the future. So your hours of operation obviously aren't an issue, but you could, I suspect, do evenings and whatnot. I just guess I have a concern about the outdoor deck and alcohol out there.
Sure. I can understand that. Generally what we have are people who are pretty mild mannered. We don't generally get a large crowd that wants to have a sort of a loud time. It's generally going to be wine or champagne, nothing really crazy, I don't think, for the most part. I can see your concern maybe at night if we have an event, but again, our events are generally from 4:30 to 7:30, so they usually don't roll into a huge nighttime extravaganza. But I'd love to have that conversation with you again, for sure.
Yeah, that's fine. We had an issue a few years ago when there was some outdoor music and a couple of tenants, but we resolved it. My concern isn't about you managing it. It's maybe the next person down the road that has a liquor license that, can do what they want. So that's my only feedback and concern.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just through the chair, if a license does transfer, that would provide another opportunity for comment.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to mention that. I also assume that the terms of the license and laws don't permit folks from taking their wine or anything else and then taking it off site and all those things. So that would be something I assume Millie, you'd keep an eye out for if that ever became an issue.
Mhm.
Good. Any other questions from either the audience or board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion from our designated motion giver for the evening, Jason.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I first move to close the public hearing.
Second,
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to close the public hearing. I'm just going to make up different order each time. Scott,
Aye.
Julianne,
aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. The hearing is closed.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move the board vote to approve the application for a new all alcoholic beverages restaurant license as submitted by Northborough Main Street Cafe, doing business as C'est La Vie Bistro, for premises located at 30 Main Street. And further, that the board has determined that the all alcoholic beverages restaurant license will not be detrimental to the educational and spiritual activities of the Trinity Church at 23 Main Street.
Second,
Motion has been made and seconded. Let's see, Jason,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Julianne,
aye.
Scott.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The vote is unanimous in favor. Millie, congratulations and thank you very much. All right.
Thank you. I think I'll have some very happy patrons.
Excellent.
Yay. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Let's see. Okay, looks like Jim took care of updating the panelist list. Thank you, Jim. Next on our agenda is a change of manager. John, is this a public hearing also or not?
No, this is not a public hearing. It's just change of manager.
Okay. So this is change of manager to consider an application from Margarita's Restaurant Group of Northborough, DBA Tia Juan's Margarita's Mexican Restaurant, to change the manager of their all alcoholic beverages restaurant license for premises located at 10006 Shops Way. Looks like we have some fine folks joining us.
Oh. Hi, sorry.
Hi, welcome. So you're here, I assume, on behalf of Margarita's.
Yes, I'm Julia McCarthy, the new general manager.
Hi, Julia. Welcome. So tell us anything that we should know.
We've reopened as of February 22nd. We were closed down for a couple months due to staffing and just an increase in COVID cases. But we haven't had any major issues. Had a fun Cinco de Mayo celebration and hope to have a nice summer. We have a beautiful building, so all are welcome.
Thank you very much. John, is there anything additional that board should know about this?
Just mentioning that Ms. McCarthy is tip certified and had her information and background check was conducted by Lieutenant Brian Griffin, who has no issues with recommending the board approve this change in management.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, in which case I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Brewer.
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve the application to change the manager as submitted by Margarita's Restaurant Group Northborough Incorporated, doing business as Tia Juan's Margarita's Mexican Restaurant, for their all alcoholic beverages restaurant license for premises located at 10006 Shops Way.
Second. Oh, sorry.
I'll give it to Scott. He
Okay.
jumped first. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Scott.
Aye.
Julianne, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The vote is unanimous in favor. Congratulations, Ms. McCarthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yes, it is after 7:15. Next on the agenda is Chief Liver for a couple of wonderful appointments. You'd like to unvideo yourself and unmute yourself?
You have to unmute yourself, Chief.
There we go. I'll repeat that. Tonight, I'm here before you requesting that you promote Officer Michael Bissett. Michael's been with us for about 9 years. Little history background. We had a promotional process in June of last year. We hired a consulting firm. We do an assessment center, including interviews with a panel of chiefs from far away, not anybody near proximity to us, written exam, and again, the assessment center. We had 3 candidates that qualified to take the exam. All 3 took it, all 3 passed. And you promoted one of the candidates last year, who came out first on the list. And this year, at this time, I'm asking you to appoint Michael Bissett to the position of sergeant. He was the next highest score on the exam. The hiring process, when we do an assessment center, our policy requires that the list be good for a 1-year period if there are multiple candidates. And that's where we stand now. Michael is the second candidate on the list. I have full faith and confidence in Mike. He's been a great employee, and I have no issues recommending him for promotion.
Excellent. Thank you. I do see him in the attendees area. Do you know if he particularly wants to come on screen, or should we give him his privacy?
Is he on as a attendee?
Yes, we should bring him in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Promote to panelist.
He's not going to get off that easily.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Very good. I appreciate your interest. And is there anything that any members of the board or staff wants to add before we act on this?
Oh, there you
go. Scott.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Officer Bissett, thank you for your service. This is great to see your movement upward on the force and in the department. So just want to say, looking forward to voting yes on your appointment to sergeant.
Thank you.
Jason, you also had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to echo my congratulations for what will be a very well-earned promotion. Michael's been very active in the community and very well regarded, and I just look forward to seeing him step up in this position. So appreciate it, Michael. Congrats.
If I may, Mr. Chair, due to Zoom and since we've had COVID, these promotions and appointments are rather unceremonious. We normally do this in person, and I would present Mike with his nice shiny gold badge symbolizing the fact that he's reached the gold standard. So it's because I noticed he's got that shiny silver one on there. So once you make rank here, you switch to a gold badge, and the extra weight is also representative of his responsibilities going forward. So that sounded pretty good. Didn't anyway, if Michael would like to make any comment, I guess.
I'll just say thank you very much, board, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Our designated motion giver, do you have a motion for us?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to appoint Michael Bissett to the position of police sergeant effective immediately.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Jason, seconded by Julianne. Let's see, Julianne, how do you vote?
Aye.
Scott, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kristen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Chief, we have another item on your agenda for another appointment.
Okay. Tonight, I am also asking you to appoint Sean Montville, actually back to the police department. Sean's been with us again for 9 years as well. And Sean recently left us to try different pastures, and he realized from afar that our grass was still greener, and he has decided to return. So I'm asking you to appoint him again, effective immediately or for first thing tomorrow, because there's no need for him to have any training. He's all trained and up to snuff. And I know that Sean, unless he's watching, this was kind of short notice for him, so he was unsure if he was going to be able to make it tonight. He's already been through it once before anyway.
I do not see his name on the attendees list. So, well, we're very glad that he's coming back. Any comments or questions from the board or from staff? John?
I was just going to, sorry, other members of the board. I was just going to say, Sean's a very positive member of the department. Was just so people are clear, he was seeking essentially a promotional opportunity elsewhere and decided to come back. I'm very pleased to get him back and very strongly recommend the board reappoint him as patrol officer. We're pleased to have him back as a productive member, and as the chief said in his memo, it's a turnkey. He knows the town. He's ready to hit the streets tomorrow. And as you know, we've had some turnover, and this is going to go a long way to helping the department getting back up to full strength just that much faster. So appreciate the board's consideration.
Fantastic. Scott, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say it's great to see what was a loss turn back around and become a win. It's going to be great to have Sean back. I know officers I've talked to, really excited to have him back. So thanks, Chief, for roping him back in on this.
No hesitation.
Yeah. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Jason? Yeah, I was just going to express the same sentiment. The best person to fill this vacancy is Sean Montville. So certainly a benefit to the force and the town to have him back in the fold and doing the work here in Northborough. So appreciate that. Thank you. We're pleased all around. All right. I see no further hands up. Mr. Motion. Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to appoint Sean Montville to the position of police officer effective May 24th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Jason, seconded by Scott. Let's see, Jason, how do you vote? Aye. Kristen?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The vote is unanimous. Chief, you've got your people. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you. All right. It being past 7:25, Jason Little, Finance Director, is here to talk about some approvals for a ban and an advance. Mr. Little.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here to, again, as he said, ask you to do two things: to vote to approve the winning bid for our bond anticipation note that is being issued, as well as approve in advance effective with the new fiscal year, basically loaning money to ourselves to start a capital project or outlay. Basically, the way municipal debt works is that once a project is complete, we will issue permanent debt for it. Right now, we have no complete projects at this point that don't have permanent debt issued at this point. So we are going to renew bond anticipation notes, or bands as they're called, to provide funding for our capital projects. So right now we have 5 projects covered by the $4.233 million of bands that we are seeking to renew, and 2 of them are new projects that are being issued for the first time. I wish I had better news about the interest rate. Interest rates have gone up, and I think, as you may have seen from your packet and the interest rate history, this is a higher interest rate than we've typically experienced, but it's not due to us as our credit quality, where we have an extremely high bond rating for our size. And this is really related to market forces and rates having gone up. And if anybody's gone out, like all interest rates are going up at this point. Basically, there were 5 bids, which means that it was competitive, and all of the investors that bid on our notes bid very close. So there were no real outliers in the field. So we ended up with an interest rate of 2.3442. In the past, that rate's been lower than 1%. So again, it's a little disappointing. but it is still the likely the lowest rate possible that we could get on this short-term debt. With respect for our advances, basically the legal process is that we will basically provide money to ourselves to start an outlay, and this is for the only other new borrowing that we have is for the fire department's ambulance, which means that on July 1st we'll have the ability to sign a contract to buy a new ambulance. So basically, we will be back here next year renewing another note again, and this ambulance, if it's purchased during the course of the year, will likely be a part of that note. That basically concludes my presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Members of the board, any questions? Scott?
Yeah, thank you. And Jason, just if I recall correctly, the ambulance, that kind of you're moving money from what comes in as ambulance fees and kind of paying ourselves, advancing that money to ourselves to cover the ambulance?
Correct. To answer that question, the question was, are we going to pay for the ambulance with ambulance fees and funds? And that is how the debt service will be paid for the ambulance. Right now, this is just a legal mechanism of making financing available to us to purchase the ambulance. So in the end, in effect, the ambulance fees will be used to pay the debt service for the ambulance.
Great. Thank you.
If that answers your question.
Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments? Julianne?
How much of the debt do you think the fees will cover? The entire?
It will be 100%, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Jason Burrow. You are muted, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In our packets, we have the text of the vote, which is very detailed here. I guess the question I have is whether we need to read the entirety of that or just by reference here in our motion that we are accepting that, voting to accept it.
John, that's probably a best question for you.
Yeah, Jason, I'm going to pitch it to Jason in terms of bond counsel. Do they need to read the entire motion as written or just as presented?
No, I mean, I believe I provided a motion in the list of motions that just said to accept the vote as prepared by bond counsel, and I believe the vote was circulated. So bond counsel produces that. Again, I believe everybody realizes that the board is going to have to come in person and sign a huge stack of documents. I lost track of who got appointed to be the clerk, but the clerk.
So Julian Hirsch as clerk.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
Julian
Kristen
Hirsch,
Wickstead as clerk. We'll sign it.
We definitely need you to be in to sign in some special places in the paperwork, but the motion just needs to be made that the vote is accepted.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, I have a question as to whether it was considered to do an actual bond on these items, given the increasing interest rates, whether there's any value to that. My assumption is you did think about this and this is the best way to go forward. So I'm curious to hear that, particularly the White Cliffs is complete as far as the acquisition. Some of the others are still in various forms of completion.
Correct. We did consider whether it would be advantageous to issue a bond or not, and there's unique circumstances for each one of the items. I mean, there's five items here. Starting with the White Cliffs. The White Cliffs is a little unique in that there hasn't been a disposition given to that building. We don't know for sure that it's not going to be a taxable purpose for that. So the ban is a tax exempt, so we're likely paying a lower interest rate as a result of that, reissuing it as bans as we go along. If we were to issue a bond, we would likely have to issue that as a taxable bond, not a tax exempt bond. because again, if we were to convey that property to somebody for a private use, that would not be allowed under borrowing laws. The rest of them, the fire station land and design, that's in process. Aspet water tank, and then the other two new projects are just things that are in the works right now. So those aren't substantially complete. And, you know, at some point, you know, the fire station land and design, that borrowing is going to be small in comparison to the construction that will come forward in the future. So likely we will wrap that together with that bond when we go out for that.
Makes sense to me. Appreciate
And
it.
if I may, Mr. Chairman, there's economies of scale to go out into the market. We have to get rated. It's an expensive and time-consuming process. So we want to wait until we've got a significant amount of debt to permanently finance it. And as Jason indicated, some of these projects are just getting going. You know, we may be needing some of that money to get into design work and permitting costs. And so we want to be careful. If we bond too much prematurely before we're ready for it, we would be subject to arbitrage. Because they're tax exempt bonds, we cannot generate money through investing. The funds. We get these funds in, we put them in an interest generating account as we wait to expend them. So if there's too much time that passes, will generate too much interest and will actually incur a penalty. So we have to be careful that we time this and coordinate it with the actual need for the outlay of funding. So those are all things that are taken in consideration when we issue bans and versus permanent debt.
Makes sense. Thank you, John. Any other comments or questions? Would someone such as Jason Perot care to make a motion?
I may do so. Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to adopt the vote as prepared by Loch Lord as bond counsel relating to the approval of the town's June 2022 notes as presented by Finance Director Jason Little.
Is there a second? Okay, motion made by Jason, seconded by Julianne. Julianne, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kristen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jason, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Scott?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor. And I believe there's another one for the ambulance.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I move the board vote to approve and execute advances in lieu of borrowing effective July 1, 2022 relating to the borrowing authorizations approved at the April 25, 2022 town meeting and as presented by Finance Director Jason Little.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Jason, seconded by Scott. Any other discussion on this one? Scott, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
I vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor. Thank you very much. And our board members will be in tomorrow to do some signing.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I have just a quick question about the signing. So, like, how much time should we give ourselves to, or, sign? Like you said, a giant stack of paper. So that could be 10 minutes. It could be a half an hour. Like, what are we looking at here?
I would, depending on how quickly you sign, maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. That concludes that item. Next on our agenda are reports. Julianne, do you have any reports for us this evening?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, I'd like to thank Leslie Rutan for her years of service and hard work on the Board of Selectmen. And welcome to Mitch Cohen as the new member, and I look forward to working with you. And I'd like to also extend a note of appreciation to Susie Sedlika and her committee for organizing another successful town cleanup this year. And want to mention that Cultural Council is hard at work organizing a cultural festival called their Culture Fest on Saturday, June 18th. There's lots of information online, so please take a minute to look at all they're working on. It looks like it'll be a lot of fun and very interesting and informative. And then I'd just like to say that after town meeting, which was as usual, well-run and very successful, a few people have commented and reached out that they have some ideas about how to increase engagement and maybe, even improve town meeting a little bit. So I hope that we can discuss that sooner rather than later while it's still fresh on our minds. And that ends my report for tonight.
Thank you, Julianne. On that item to discuss, if you could send myself an email, copy John on request for an agenda item, and we'll figure out where to put it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Kristen, reports.
Okay, I'm not muted. Okay. Oh, well, Julianne, totally. I usually go first. I haven't had to deal with this yet. So I used to go first. So I was also going to thank Leslie for her many years of service to Northborough on various boards and committees. I know she was on the Board of Selectmen. She was also on the school committee for a while. So and probably something else too. I wouldn't be surprised. And then congratulations and welcome to Mitch. I also got some information that the scholarship committee is giving out $1,800 in scholarships this year to 5 Northborough residents who are high school seniors. They are looking for 3 new members. A few of their members are stepping down, so we could use some more people on the scholarship committee. Before I read my quote for the evening, I was going to say for the next 3 months, I am offering up my poem/quote spot to the students of Northborough of any age. If parents or guardians, or the students themselves, if they're older, email me a poem or a quote. If I get more than one, I will choose, or if I don't, I will just read what I get and add it to the end of my report instead of coming up with my own, for a little twist on my own report. And also just for the summer, we'll try it out for the summer, see how it goes. I got this quote, tonight's quote, from a teacher friend. It comes from a former student of hers who emigrated years ago from the Republic of Congo and recently graduated from college here in Massachusetts. He shared these words in a short speech to her students. "Uncertainty is part of life, and asking for help is to live grounded in reality." That really struck me, so I thought I would share it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have kind of a long list, which is atypical for me, but let's go. First of all, Community Affairs Committee, the Louise Houle Cleanup Day was once again a success. Appreciate the efforts of all residents who are out trying to clean up the roadways around town, and also the efforts of the Public Works Department to kind of cycle around and pick up all of that debris. Just a very worthwhile endeavor throughout the town each year. I want to also mention this past week, it was a busy week. Rotary had their 50th anniversary celebration. Mitch and Scott and I were in attendance for that on Tuesday evening. Mary Ellen Duggan received the Paul Harris Award, which is the highest award, I guess, in the Rotary for her community service over the last 2 years, her efforts in health and well-being of the community through the COVID environment. So congratulations to Mary Ellen. Wednesday night, the Northborough Fire Department EMS had their barbecue at the pavilion down at the Ellsworth McAfee Park. So I managed to stop in there and poach a hot dog and just congratulate them and thank them for all the work that they do. Thursday night was the Northborough Southborough Special Education Parent Advisory Council presenting their Go the Distance Awards to educators in the public schools of Northborough and Southborough. There's something like 50 or 60 recipients of these awards, and each of them is nominated by a parent or student who has benefited from the services that those educators provide. So it's important work, And the recognition was well deserved for these people. On Friday night and a couple weeks earlier on Saturday night, I had the privilege of assisting with the overnight supervision at New England Sports Center for the junior and senior prom, post-prom parties, successful events. Just happy to be able to provide a venue for the high school kids who are attending the proms to have a safe place to go to afterward. A lot of entertainment. We have bull riding. Food is provided. We have Rink 1 open for ice skating to the extent they want to take their lives in their hands on these terrible figure skates that we hand out. It's just a very enjoyable time for the kids. I think a lot of them appreciate the effort, and certainly for the senior class who didn't have a junior prom last year, this was kind of one last opportunity to experience this event. So I do want to thank Algonquin PTO for all of their fundraising and coordination for the event. I want to thank the volunteers who helped with the check-in, and then particularly the overnight supervision. It's very difficult to find volunteers to do that. So we appreciate the people who did turn out to make that possible. And most of all, Sue Distler, who is one of the primary coordinators for the event. She does also serve on the overnight team. She's been doing this for like 20 years. Her youngest child last graduated from Algonquin in 2013. So here we are 9 years later, and she's still putting in this effort for the benefit and the safety of our high school kids. So I just want to thank Sue publicly. Somewhere interleaved in there, we had an annual town meeting and an annual town election. So I want to thank Town Clerk Andy Dowd and Assistant Town Clerk Karen Wilbur for their efforts to coordinate those things. It's a lot of work for them to prepare and to conduct particularly the town election. So I just want to acknowledge them and all of the town meeting volunteers and election workers who carried off those events. I want to also thank municipal staff, John, Jason Little, Scott Charpentier, Police Chief Will Liver, Fire Chief Dave Parenti. They just do a terrific job to get our budget in shape for town meeting, get that presented clearly and effectively, able to answer questions from people at town meeting who were looking for more information or clarification about some of that. It's a tremendous amount of work to get us to that point. So I just want to thank them, thank the board and committee members who participate in the process, and then of course thank all the residents who attended town meeting to participate and to get us through another cycle. And also town moderator Fred George for conducting the town meeting. Moving to town election, I want to congratulate the electees. We have Fred George for town moderator, Mitch Cohen here on the Board of Selectmen, Bill Pierce on the planning board, Joan Frank on the regional school committee, and Bryce McKnight on the Northborough school committee. So congratulations to all of them. Look forward to the work that they will be doing in town. And then I want to mention two more people. Michelle Gillespie, who served on the planning board for 6 terms, 18 years. Michelle, in addition to her service on the planning board, also is a member of Boroughs Cares for Troops, and also is a member of and I think the chair of the Applefest Committee, which is not a municipal committee, it's just a local group that does all of the organization and planning and logistics for conducting Applefest each year. Michelle chose not to run for re-election this year. I do want to thank her publicly for her many years of service and her continuing service in these other endeavors. And then finally, of course, I want to mention Leslie Rattan, member of the Board of Selectmen. Leslie served 6 terms, I believe herself, on the Board of Selectmen, 18 years, plus 4 years prior to that on the school committee, and then had worked in various capacities on feasibility committee, on school PTOs. She continues to serve on school council. She's had a long record of service, particularly with her association to the schools. Here on the Board of Selectmen, she has been liaison to one or both of the school committees, Regional School Committee or Northborough School Committee over her tenure. And she served as the chair of the Lincoln Street School Building Committee when Lincoln Street was renovated back in 2015 in that timeframe. So a great deal of work, a great deal accomplished over her tenure. I certainly appreciate it. She was just a very valuable resource to me as I was kind of coming up through some of the municipal town government ranks, and just appreciate her service and wish her well. I hope she has a very relaxing and enjoyable summer and continues to find avenues and ways to contribute to the community. Certainly, she's known to many people in the community, and I think everyone appreciates everything that she's done. So thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Jason. Scott, any reports?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And then let me just pivot right from Jason's comments and echo on similar appreciation and gratitude for both Leslie and Michelle, long-term servants to town, and just an amazing amount of work and effort that they brought into our community. I'd like to thank both chiefs for their reports. If Chief Parenti was here, and I may ask him at a future meeting to talk a little bit more about taking action against cancer. A lot of our firefighters face increased risk of cancer, and his report had some information about that event and that initiative. There was a series of transportation and public works webinars. Maybe put Scott Charpentier on notice that I may be dropping into your office to talk about the winter restoration and the Safe Streets for All and the bridge and culvert improvement programs coming out of those webinars that were conducted over this month. Earlier this month, had a wonderful opportunity. In fact, Jason, you joined me there as well for Habitat for Humanity. We dedicated a new home to a new Northborough family. It was a Habitat for Humanity project that rehabilitated a neglected piece of property on Hitching Post Lane, right across from Northborough Crossing, and was just a wonderful event to recognize one of the newest Northborough families, and a little fellow that was a big hit at the event as he wandered around, about 1 year old. So I want to welcome that family. I was happy to represent Northborough in that regard. Julianne, I didn't get to say hi at the Sudbury Valley Trustees legislative breakfast. I saw you in the virtual crowd there. Might circle back with you sometime to talk more about some of the things that came up during that event. But that was interesting to see the legislative initiatives being proposed at the state level for some of the environmental and sustainable initiatives. There wasn't a joint meeting of open space and trails committees due to town meeting. We had the successful approvals of both the accessible trail around the senior center and the pedestrian traffic over the Aqueduct Bridge, doing studies and design for that. So those committees met to go over next steps for both those projects. Jason, you mentioned the Rotary celebration. I think I just want to add to that one of the fundraising and initiatives that the Rotary is putting forward is Nutrition 68, which is a program to feed students that may be going without a decent meal over the weekend. So the Nutrition 68 represents roughly the 68 hours between what they might get at school on Friday for lunch before they come back to school on Monday. So wonderful program. I think if anybody looks up Nutrition 68, you'd find the appropriate links and information about that and how to contribute if you wanted. That ends my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. A benefit of going last is I got to check off a lot of the items that I had on my list. So thank you very much, everybody. Excuse me. I understand the Assabet Park Playground is reopening this coming Saturday morning, which is excellent. The 28th of this month, and looking forward to seeing, obviously anyone who's driven by has seen the wonderful progress that the DPW and Recreation have put forth on that. So I'm looking forward to seeing the little kids run around in there. I attended a meeting of the Family and Youth Services Committee last Thursday. It was eye-opening regarding some of the mental health issues that they talked about that our youth are experiencing, and I'm sure that they will be talking about those many times in the future, and wouldn't be surprised if that bubbles up to us at some point. And one of my favorite things in town are events at our local library, in particular authors that come in to read books. We have something scheduled at the library on Saturday, June 11th at 10:30 in the morning for a wonderful new children's book called Miss Rita Mystery Reader. And who's that author? Oh, Kristen Wickstead. I think I've heard of her. Has co-authored a fantastic new children's book, and we'll be talking, both reading from it and I think hopefully talking about it a little bit that day and time at the Northborough Free Library.
Thank you.
That concludes my report. John, did you have anything to share?
Yeah,
with
just
us?
a couple of things. Tomorrow, the Senate will be scheduled to start their debate on the budget. So as you know from our legislative priorities, a lot of the items that we've identified as things that we are seeking funding for will be up for debate tomorrow. It looks like we may see a little bit more minimum student aid. They have a proposal to go from the $30 to $60 per student. Unrestricted general government aid also potentially could be increasing. They're not going to be game-changing increases, but every little bit helps. As you know, we have to set our town meeting, our budget before we know what our final state aid numbers. Some of these funding sources will come through certain programs that will in fact impact like the regional transportation that would go directly to the high school. Others, general aid, for instance, would be used essentially applied to when we set the tax rate in November, and would have the impact of reducing taxes by some nominal amount. But that is progressing. The good news is all the pressure or discussion is about increasing, not decreasing, as it should be. The other is there is a bill that's making its way through the Senate to extend the remote meetings from expiring in July, I believe it's July 15th, to extend it through December of 2023. There's a few other items on there. As we get a little bit more detail at your next meeting, I'll provide you a little bit more thorough update on the budget and a couple of these legislative items that we've been tracking as they start making their way through the Senate, then conference committee, and ultimately to the governor's desk for signature. So we continue to track those things. At this point in time, though, everything that we're seeing is would have a positive impact on us. So it's moving in the right direction. Not as great or as far as we'd like it to, but at least moving in the right direction. So more to come on that. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, John. Next up, we have public comments. So members of the audience that have dialed in, if you will. It doesn't look like we have any connected by telephone. If you would like to share anything with the board, press the little hand button now. I see nothing thus far. Going once, going twice, gone, and we will move on to discussion regarding the ARPA public input session. So at the board's last meeting, there was, in several subsequent meetings, there was discussion obviously about the use of ARPA funds. There was a meeting that was tentatively scheduled and then postponed for gathering input from boards and committees and to some extent by the public. And it was decided by the board prior to the election to go ahead and postpone it until sometime soon thereafter and discuss at this meeting. And here we are. John, I don't know if you had anything specific to propose, or if you just want to let the board have at it.
Just the only comment that I would make is we would probably want to do it in June. prior to everybody leaving, school letting out, and everybody heading off on vacation. And the only other thing is that whatever the format, I do think it is important at the start of it to have a little bit of a setting of the table. We've done a number of things. There are several grants that we've received or in process. We have the Be Well Northborough initiative. I think it would be helpful at least to frame up kind of where we are at this point, and then have a conversation about where we would like to go. So I would hope that whatever format takes place, that there's a little bit of an opportunity for the staff to set the table in terms of the information that we do have at the moment. And then it's really up to the board in terms of, opening it up to taking public comment or feedback or submissions from, boards and committees for consideration. I'm not sure what process you all have in mind, but there should be some vetting and assessment of the requests. And I would hope that there'd be an opportunity for myself and staff to provide our thoughts and comments on that and provide some information. I know there's been some things that are out there that have been put out there publicly, many of which we are already doing or already exist. So I think there is an educational component to this in terms of understanding what's already been done and then identifying where there may be some gaps and some opportunities. We also, as I said, have there's a lot of grant funding that's out there that's available, and we're tracking and chasing that down. One of the key things with ARPA funding is we don't want to spend our ARPA money if we can use the state's ARPA money, or if we can leverage some smaller amount of our grant to obtain other grants from the state. Sometimes it may need some assistance to package things up, or we may need some preliminary design work or something like that. So those are all things. It's very important that we have a chance to make sure that we're leveraging the funding for the state and federal funds that are also becoming available and will be available over the next year or so. So again, I don't see this as a one and done. It's going to be probably a few discussions over a period of time, making sure that we continue to evolve as we get more information. I'll just add that, I was hesitant in the beginning. I kept saying, please be patient. The final rules didn't come out until January 6th. A number of communities, including some directly abutting us, followed and started to spend all of their funding, only to figure out that the rules have changed. Things that weren't eligible are now eligible, and I think more importantly, we're seeing opportunities from particularly the state as they figure out how they're going to expend their ARPA funds. We want to get in line and make sure that, as I said, we're seeking those funds first and leveraging what we have. Some of our local needs and some of the previous requests that came forward, I would still stand by those and hope that we can have a discussion about how they fit in. We, as you know, never had put forward anything that would have expended all of the funds. So there's opportunities for discussion really about anything that the community would like to do within reason. But there should be some process as we vet and go through priorities for the town. One of the big things, as I've indicated to you back in December, and will again in this upcoming budget cycle reiterate again, is that we are looking over the next several years for some significant projects that are going to have a very meaningful tax impact on us. So we want to take that into consideration as well. Anything that we do needs to be, as you all hear me say every year, sustainable. So expanding programs and in particular staffing, needs to be done very carefully and as part of an overall sustainable plan. Otherwise, we will find ourselves getting in a situation down the road where we're not going to be able to maintain this expansion. So, but I think the chance to frame up some of what we're doing now, so people are aware of what's happening, so we don't get duplicative or repetitive requests for things that people may not be aware of. So it's an educational component. And then certainly, opening it up and listening to what the community would like to see or what their ideas are. And I think with respectfully to the board, I think, it's an opportunity to listen, but then we would need to have, in my opinion, a separate discussion and process for how we're going to vet and prioritize these requests in the context of the overall operations of the town. So really, it's just my sense, let's pick it time where people are available before school lets out, frame up, provide some basic information, a little bit of education, and then an opportunity for folks to provide their thoughts. So other than that, it's really the board, the board's discussion tonight in terms of picking it. I do think you should pick a date this evening, whatever that is, a date, a time, and at a location, and so people can get that on their calendar. And I don't think that the format is really any much more complicated than what I just described, but that's up for discussion, I guess.
Thank you, John. There are both advantages and disadvantages of the timeline that we've got in front of us right now. Many towns, as you noted, started this process much earlier, both in terms of public input and as far as commitment to funding. We have now the advantage of seeing some of the things that other towns around us have done with that money. Both some things that look like expenditures that the board previously considered with the ARPA funds, and some interesting different ideas that might be worthy of consideration for us. So I'm very eager to hear from members of the board regarding thoughts as far as process, and in particular, perhaps a date. Kristen.
So I think that's a very good point. We should do a community meeting before school gets out. Next weekend is Memorial Day, and then after that, June 1st is a Wednesday. So we probably have a good couple weeks there to choose from before things get a little crazy for families. And we would definitely like to include as many people as we can. So that's my 2 cents on the date. If we could do it within the first 2 weeks of June, that seems to make sense. I think before that, it might be a little tricky. And then and do something in the evening, one of those things where it's, early enough that people aren't exhausted, but if it is gonna be something that a lot of people want to talk, then we don't want it to go too late, kind of like town meeting that way, I think. And as far as format goes, I understand what John is saying, but I think a lot of people who would be likely to attend the meeting have done a certain amount of homework, at least on the items that have already been proposed. So if there was going to be some table setting, I would want it to be very brief.
Thank you, Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any? Julianne, you did have your hand up before. Yes.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is there any possibility of making this our first hybrid meeting? Because we'd like as much participation as possible. And some people may actually already be on vacation, or, it will be June and people are starting to move into summer activities. So if there's any possibility of that, I'd like to see that. If there's any possibility of directly emailing us with any thoughts that people have and being able to accept those at the meeting or in our future discussion, I'd like to see that. And I think it's important that we specifically reach out to all of our boards and committees with just, a couple of questions. Do you have any specific needs that you'd like us to think about? And I started to make a list in no particular order, but schools, small businesses, family and youth service is already communicating with us, which I think is great. The health agent, the veterans agent, churches, senior center. The list goes on. And if we can make a comprehensive list of those people to reach out to directly, I think that will be helpful. And the last thing I'll throw on the table is, an online survey. So some of my ideas.
Yeah, I can imagine this to be a large process, but I think it should be. This is certainly a unique situation for the town to be in, to be receiving well over $4 million in essentially or roughly unrestricted funds. I think it's important to give the community the opportunity to participate in that. That does mean that's a lot of work for us. And it sounds like I'm hearing from at least a couple of board members thus far willing to take that on, but I want to hear from anybody else that has any. Scott, yes.
Yeah, that's great. I think Julian's got a good point of getting the input from boards, committees, commissions. I would say to merge the kind of the two ideas together. John saying to set the table and frame things up. If that's either a board or committee chair or the associated staff and department to then represent and talk about the items that have already come forward, the items that are already in progress, that could be an efficient way to get the education out to everyone of the things that have already bubbled up or already come are already in progress. One mechanism we have, if we wanted to be able to quickly continue to solicit ideas from the public, is just to use the Be Well Northborough input form for ideas. That continues to be a good way and is already up and running to solicit ideas for general wellness and the use of the ARPA funds. So I'd offer that as an option for continuing to get input from the public.
Okay. My concern with that is I love the Be Well Northborough program, and I think it does make sense for them to have input into things they could do with the money that has been allocated, which may involve allocating even more money to them if that's justified. I think it does make sense to have a separate form or separate way of submission, separate from that, to be clear that when folks have ideas that don't match with what Be Well is purposed for. I know technically it's a form that already exists, but it has a different purpose. So that's my thought process. It should be a separate means of input. Krista?
Well, I would say that it is right, and that the purpose of that initiative was to collect the unmet needs of the community, and that is what we're positioning ARPA funding for. So I don't think it's at odds. I think it's the most effective way to solicit input, and input has come in that way. So it's would be the least effort to get input from the public.
But that input, pardon me, I don't think comes to the board. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
sure.
Also, I think that people do have a certain definition of Be Well in their head now. And so say, for example, if it's small business, do they really think that that's the place that they would go to for their ideas? But I do appreciate, Scott, your I think where you're going with this also is that we don't make it too complicated, right? That, if we have 5 different places people can give information, that's going to get confusing too. So I think that that's a really great idea, that that we simplify it as much as possible. But at this point, since Be Well, I'm not sure that Be Well is the right venue to do that. But maybe we can think of a simpler way to do it. It's shouldn't be too hard.
What I don't know is how complicated is it from the town's IT staff to create another form for input and where that goes and everything. Like, I think we don't have that knowledge here tonight. Kristen.
I was thinking, as you all were talking, and you sort of brought it up, Mitch, where does the information go? And then I thought, even if it comes to all 5 of us and John or something, how can we, I don't know, should there be like one point person who kind of gets the information or synthesizes it and then shares it with the world? Like even that we don't know yet, right?
Right. We're really, in this approach, we're really starting fresh.
Yeah. Okay.
If
So
I
that's one
may,
idea, is to have like one person.
Mhm.
But yeah, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Jason? Oh, Jason is muted.
Once again, muted. I was just going, well, John, why don't you comment, because I think you were responding to Kristen. I was going with something else, so. why
Sure,
don't you
John, go ahead.
if that's okay.
I was just going to say, we can compile this in sort of in general senses, categorize it for the board's consideration, the submissions that are received. There's a lot of duplication, and some of the input that we received already, I'd say probably about half or more of it was stuff that we were already doing that people weren't aware of. One of the components coming out of the other side of this, I think, is going to be an educational piece of it, is making sure that people know what we're doing already. But getting the submissions in and just sort of compiling them in and categorizing them in a way that then could be discussed at a board meeting is probably the best approach. The only other thing I was going to mention, because I think this is very important, is just the date. Are we looking at, we're probably, my suggestion would be a Thursday night, just because that's one of the rare nights that usually it's appropriations and financial planning night. Since they're not meeting right now, it's open, so we're not conflicting with other boards and committees. But I don't know if we're looking at the 16th or the 23rd of June, but I think those are kind of the two dates. Anything before that, I know, Kristen, you said the first 2 weeks in June might not give enough notice for people to prepare or to be available. But again, it's up to the board. But I think it's important to pick a night, a date and a time first, and we can get kind of a save the date out there, let people know that it's taking place as we continue to flush out some of the details of the format and so forth.
Sure.
So if anybody has any thoughts on the date, I'd like to get that stake in the ground first, because I need to also kind of sequester some staff as well for the event.
I think school ends on the 22nd, and if we wanted to do it before school ends, I would say Thursday the 16th makes sense to me.
Do we have to wait that long? Because the 9th is also, I mean, that's 2.5 weeks. Do we not think that's enough time?
The 9th is 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, it's only the 23rd of May. So I just looked at my calendar.
The only problem is getting the word out. I mean, it's going to take a few days to get the information posted in different places, and then.
And if we can ask, I'm sorry, go ahead, Julia, finish.
No, I'm done.
Okay. If we go ahead and ask for feedback starting, within a few days, that feedback can come in, and that would give us, including staff, the ability to start to review some of the items that come in advance of a meeting on whatever night it happens to be. So I think there's an advantage in waiting a little bit more. Not that nothing would be taking place, but that input would be coming in and digested. That would also give us the ability to talk it further. I believe our next meeting is the 13th of June. So we would have one more regular board meeting prior to the 16th, if it's the 16th.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good idea to have one more of our meetings in to review the material, or to get in a snapshot of material that's coming in. And then I like the idea of the 16th for the date. Okay.
Jason, did you have your hand up?
Yes, and you've all just taken the words right out of my mouth. I was going to redirect to choosing a date. I was going to suggest possibly that the date could be moved out while we're still taking some form of online or ongoing input, and that would just allow perhaps a bit of time, not only to collect that input, but to also kind of qualify it, so that when we get to the actual meeting, some of those issues will be understood, and we might even be able to respond to them to explain, as John might have suggested, what other funding sources are available or how some of that's being done. So we might not only be taking input, but we might also have a few answers. I would suggest that the 16th is probably the sweet spot for scheduling a meeting. A little earlier is maybe too early, a little later, and we're past the end of the school year. Plus, as you've already mentioned again, we have the benefit of our own selectmen meeting on the 13th leading into the 16th to just to kind of regroup and address anything that needs to be addressed at that time. So the question in my mind would be, what's the location, what's the venue, and what is the what equipment or technology needs to be in place so that people might be participating in person, but they also might be participating remotely.
If I may, I haven't confirmed this because I was waiting to see the discussion this evening, but my suggestion would be to look at the high school library. We've done some hybrid meetings from there. The location is important for cable access to be able to work the logistics. So I'll have a conversation with access to make sure that works because the schools have done some hybrid from there. It gives you physical space for people to be there and not be on top of each other. And I believe it gives you a location where a hybrid meeting would work. The only other large space venue like that we have would be the senior center, the library, large meeting room. But again, I'd want to make sure with cable access that we can do what the board's envisioning at those locations successfully. But my understanding is we want people to be able to be there in person. Assuming the board will be there in person, and then allow people to call in if they wish to, or Zoom in to the meeting and provide input that way. That's my sense of what we're looking to accomplish here.
Are all board members okay being in person for something like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I agree. I like the idea of having a remote option for people that are uncomfortable due to COVID or just inconvenient, location and time to be able to attend in person. We'll do our best to put that together. Kristen.
Just one question about that high school room. Is there a big screen that we would see these people, or they would just call in and everyone would be able to hear them?
If you recall, well, early on in COVID, we had a couple of hybrid meetings there where with a screen so we can see folks.
I wasn't at those.
Yeah, right. So I just give me a chance to have a conversation with access about whether or not that works. Because the other alternative would be, the senior center is a large space. I'm not sure the status of. I know we can go out live there, but because they do the school committee meetings there, I think there's some infrastructure there that might be helpful. Let me, if I may, if the board's okay, let me kind of verify either the high school, the senior center, or the library, sort of in that order. But when we were looking to do something previously, the high school library, it's a good, large space. And I know we've done a hybrid meeting from there in the past, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
What about time? Are we looking at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock? Any earlier than 6? People have difficulty getting there. Later than 7, you're going to go late.
6:30.
6:16 was what I was going to suggest in 30 seconds, but I'm flexible on that. Does 6 o'clock work or 6:30?
Yes.
Sorry. I think it's important to get the date and the time out there. Sort of a save the date, and then the exact location I think is less critical.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say 6:30 actually. I'm with whoever said that.
I agree, and it's not necessarily the kind of meeting that if people come late or want to leave, they,
yeah.
I kind of imagine it to be in and out too, if people so desire. So 6:30 sounds good.
Sounds like we have consensus. Scott, you're okay with that?
Yeah,
All right.
6:30.
All right, so I have June 16th at 6:30.
Mhm.
Location to be finalized, but initially starting at the high school auditorium. I'm sorry, the high school library, assuming it's available, or potentially the senior center main meeting room or the library main meeting room.
Yeah, I think any location that seems to generally work is probably going to be fine with the board. So we'll work on that. Julianne?
Well, speaking of location, if all else is equal, I think the senior center is just a really pleasant place. It's it's airy. It might be the best venue if we can get everything.
I'm not sure the hybrid. I would have to check to see what the status of that is.
Okay.
Doing the hybrid from there. That's the only question. Otherwise, that's, it's an easy location.
And regarding format, my suggestion is maybe I should meet with John and Julianne as vice chair sometime between now and the next meeting to come up with some thoughts as to how that would flow, and then bring that to the board on the 13th. Sound reasonable? The focus of this will be input. With being able to hopefully answer questions as well as possible, based on input that comes beforehand. But I really want to get input from the community as to priorities and ideas, both the ideas that have been suggested before and any new creative ideas that come up. So we can then follow up and digest that information, and then potentially, there might be a follow-up meeting or some other form after the meeting on the 16th. Sound reasonable?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So John will be in touch sometime after the meeting on setting up a time to come in and chat. Okay. Does anyone else have anything? Julianne.
I'm sorry. I think I'm taking up too much time here, but Jason, if you could help me out with this. When a few years ago, when we had to decide on indoor or outdoor town meeting, we did a designated email for people to just quickly go on the homepage of Town of Northborough and email us with their needs and ideas. And I have to say, I don't know how you felt, Jason, but I thought it worked really well. And then we even took those emails and used them in the discussion at a Board of Selectmen meeting. Do you think that something like this could also be added to gathering information from the town?
I'm sorry, you're directing that to me, Julianne?
No, the group, but
Okay.
I guess the question to you is, did you find that as helpful as I did at the time?
Well, I think that, it arguably depends on the volume of input, right? Each of us individually receiving the entirety of what is submitted is a lot to sift through. And if we have staff support to kind of sift through that, order it, categorize it, or something, then I think that benefits me, certainly to some extent. If it's, if you're talking about the convenience of members of the public to find the spot where they submit it and submit some kind of information, then a particular email address or a form, if we have a form, then that sounds fine to me, but I frankly don't recall what the actual mechanism was that was provided on the town website.
Sorry, through the chair, let me talk to our IT director. It's not a big deal for us to create a one-time use ARPA input email address or something like that. If that's the pleasure of the board, we can certainly do that. That way you're not getting sporadically spammed with stuff, and we have a chance to take it in and, like I said, sort of bring it together. That would be something I think we should be able to do for this.
Thank you. That'd be great. I'd like to hear from my fellow board members.
I think that makes sense. There's certainly advantages of a purpose-built email address and/or form, so that people know exactly how to use it. And then once the time expires for using it and decisions have been made, we can shut that down and no longer get spam at that address.
A quick link access on the main homepage of the town website, so people can go to the homepage and find it easily and get there. Similar to what we did with the COVID information, you had a prominent button or something to take you right to the COVID.
Yeah, we can do that.
Kristen.
Can we make it so that we all can read the emails as they come in? Right? Is that the idea? Like this ARPA email address, we can all, the 5 of us can all read the emails?
That would be my preference. And we could set up filters within the email system to put those into a designated folder of our own if we feel inundated by that.
Okay.
But
I know we have a couple of techie people on this board, so I feel like that shouldn't be a big deal, right?
Yeah. I imagine if a member of the board does not want that, I imagine our staff is capable of figuring out how to exclude somebody if that's the preference. Anybody have anything else? All right. Thank you very much. That ends the discussion on the ARPA public input session. Next, we have discussion regarding process for zoning board of appeals appointment. So again, at the last meeting prior to the election, there were 2 applicants for zoning board, one a reappointment and one new, but there was only one position, and the board unfortunately deadlocked 2-2 with one recusal, and that was punted off again to our first meeting after the election, and again here we are. John, we haven't talked about this yet. I meant to bring this up earlier. My assumption is that because the person who is seeking reappointment is no longer listed on the zoning board page on the website, that position is now considered vacant. Is that accurate, John?
Well, there was no, that person was not reappointed. So
right. Okay.
At this point, there is no, it's not filled at this point.
Okay. So I think the first decision to be made is, do we want to revisit the vote that was already taken, if that's something legitimate to do, or do we want to advertise for the position now that it is vacant and given that the board has taken a vote? One of my thoughts is that if the board is interested in appointing somebody new, the process that we have in place, which I hope we can revisit sometime during the next year, doesn't provide a good way for example, in the case of the zoning board, an alternate to be able to seek elevation to appoint if it is vacant to a full appointment upon vacancy. I'm open to doing it just about any way, shape, or form that the board would like. So any thoughts? Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Considering that the board was deadlocked on the 2 previous applicants, then and given the passage of time since applications were initially opened, I think my suggestion would be to kind of restart the process, advertise it as vacant, take whatever applications from those 2 applicants or anyone else who might be interested at this point, and just kind of repeat the process. I think that confining consideration to the original 2 applicants perhaps isn't the right way to go. And if well, I think it's reasonable that we just treat it as an open position and restart the process, give it full consideration, and then arrive at another decision by the board with the full complement of the board to make a voting decision.
Julianne.
I agree with Jason. I think it's best to just start all over again. Clean slate.
And along with that, inquire of the original 2 applicants whether they're still interested in the position, considering the outcome of the initial consideration.
Right. Yeah, I don't think either of them should consider the vote the way that it occurred to be a rejection of either or both of them as members.
Right.
Any other comments or questions? Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense to give everybody a chance to apply that's interested.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like we have consensus around simply advertising that position as a vacancy. John, I assume that that's something you could easily handle.
Yep.
And that puts pressure on me to assign people to an interview subcommittee. So we will make sure to do that forthwith as well. Kristen.
Could we so those people will have to interview again? Both of them? Is that?
I yes, with a question mark. No determinations have been made as to who the interview subcommittee will be. So I imagine if it ends up being the same, then maybe it doesn't make sense to interview again. But if they are different, then I think it probably does, because the questions and process might be a little bit different.
Okay.
I think we'll figure that out as we go along. Scott.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's in fairness, restart the process, and if folks interview again, if the same applicants are there, then it's just you've got a smooth and standard process.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Sounds like that ends that item. Next item, recommendation for appointments to the diversity, equity, inclusion. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. It just occurs to me, if we're going to post the vacant position or post that we're accepting applications for that position, is there a time frame within which applications need to be submitted?
Our policy says it to be, I haven't looked at that policy in a very long time, 30 days. Is that? I just want to follow the rules.
Yeah, I'm a little less concerned about what it is and just having some idea of what it will be. 30 days sounds fine to me.
Yeah.
So,
anyone have any objection to that? John, is there no hardship to the zoning board at this point? I know it's ideal to have a full board, but they do have alternates, so they can function. Okay, good. That's important. All right, so we'll leave it
sorry
open
for the interruption.
Nope. It's a good question. Thank you, Jason. All right. Now, recommendation for appointments to the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. So the interview committee did interview a number of applicants, and there was one applicant that the interview was waived. It was somebody who served previously and couldn't do a religious holiday, participate in interviews that were of the night they were scheduled, which is an interesting commentary on how we need to improve ourselves for the topic of this committee. I don't know if anyone had any general thoughts or otherwise before we deliberate on this. Kristen, yes.
Hi, so I had an idea that since I watched the interviews, thank you, Scott, for doing those with Leslie. I did hear, I think it was Becca explained that it's 6 at-large members and then someone from the Council of Aging and someone from the DEI committee that's run by the schools, right? And then I feel like there was one other. Who was the other one, Scott?
I believe that's it. Coalition for Equity from the school and Council on Aging.
Well, doesn't that make 8 spots then? Oh, is Becca the 9th?
And then town administration and Becca representing the 9th.
So she actually has a voting spot on that committee then?
That's my
Because there's supposed to
understanding.
be 9 people, right?
I'll look that up while we're here.
Okay, thanks. So, well, regardless, I can keep talking. So we have not enough people to fill the 6 spots. And also we don't know who the Council on Aging or the DEI committee with the schools is going to appoint yet, right? We don't have that information. And maybe they're waiting to see what we do before they do their things. But in any case, we have some really great people, and I really appreciate they all put their hats in the ring. But we have nobody who's Black person. We have nobody who's from the Indian community in Northborough. And those are both fairly good sized communities in Northborough that I think it's really important to, especially to have someone who's Black on this committee. So, and ideally more than one person. I was talking to a friend this afternoon who is Black, and she's involved in town government, and she has been on DEI committees, and it's not going to do the job we need it to do if we don't have the right people. So my suggestion would be to just ask these people to just be on hold for a little while longer while we get some more people in for interviews. And if we have to recruit, figure out how we can do that, reach out to certain communities, and then and anyone who wants to apply can apply, and we do a few more interviews, and then we have maybe a bigger group of people, and then we can fill up all 6 slots on one night rather than or at one meeting, rather than having, if we were to vote on it the way the motion is, it leaves us with 1 spot open, which I'm not sure is the best way to move forward. I'm really not.
John, is there anything imminent that this board needs to get working on right away?
Well, there's the, picking up the recommendations and starting to work through that. It's as time sensitive as you think it is, I guess. There's no deadline to be met.
Okay.
That's looming, but.
Kristen, I apologize if I interrupted. Did you complete your?
No, that's it. That was a really good point. And obviously, just from listening to the interviews, Becca explained to each person individually what she was hoping the first few steps would be. And one of the things she explained to, I think she explained it to Melissa really nicely, was that one of the first things they want to do is find appropriate language that they're going to use and sort of give themselves their own dictionary, and then move forward with some rules and priorities. And so they're really kind of starting from scratch again, which is a lot of work. And I realize that needs to get done as soon as possible, but there's no point doing it if we don't have the right people on the committee, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any comments on Kristen's suggestion or any other ideas? Jason.
Just a few observations. If I'm not mistaken, there were 6 applicants, but one kind of fell out of contact and was not interviewed and was not able to be contacted. So there's potentially another applicant out there that might step forward. Still interested. The second observation I'd make is that the openings were posted, and all of the people who did come forward came forward in good faith. And from what I can see from their submissions or the summaries that we have here, that there's some actually very good expertise among some of the people. In fact, 2 in particular who are being proposed for 3-year terms have particular expertise and experience. And, I guess I'm not sure. In a manner of speaking, it's self-selected. The people who are interested in doing the work step forward to do it. And I guess I'm uncertain if there's a communication gap where that came from, because we have the ad hoc committee operating for a lengthy period of time, doing some of this work with some significant engagement with the community. So I guess my feeling is I think the candidates who came forward and are being recommended came forward in good faith. I think they have intentions to do the work properly. And over time, as some of the terms expire and we wish to reconsider the membership, then that would be another opportunity. And again, there's still one of the 6 spots remaining open here. And if there's a member of the community who would like to come forward and volunteer for that position, then we certainly welcome that interest. But I feel like I would hesitate to put all 5 of these candidates on hold at this point. After having received that recommendation in January, the decision to establish this committee was the first recommendation that this board considered and acted on. And I guess I'm a little unclear about what the benefit of further delay would be unless I understand exactly what effort someone's going to go to try to find more candidates beyond what we have done or what we know.
Kristen.
So I would be willing to do some recruiting. I'm happy to be the one to reach out to whoever I can find to listen to me. It's important to, I can probably recruit some other people in town who would be willing to help me as well. But I just think on behalf of the board, it would be great to just reach out to people and say, would you consider this? And I think our perspectives honestly, like Mitch is our diversity on this committee now, as far as I know. I don't know a ton about all of you, but I know he's Jewish and I'm not, and we're all white, and maybe the importance doesn't strike us the way it strikes the people that this committee is meant to empower and speak up for. So it's okay, I think, if any of us don't really see the point of waiting. It's okay if we don't really get it. But I think it's mostly important this is a really important committee to get it right and not just kind of move ahead with, well, whoever applied first gets to have the spots, even the guy who didn't show up. Like, no, I don't think so. I disagree with that respectfully.
Scott, I think you had your hand up before.
Yeah, I guess I want to be respectful of the process that was used to advertise openings and folks to apply for those openings, based on their interest. So I wouldn't want to penalize the folks that stepped forward and was willing to offer their expertise and experiences to the town. We've got one person that could not make that interview. That looks to be rescheduled. I guess we could consider extending the period for applications, but I would feel very uncomfortable for the people that did apply and did go through the proper process to then be penalized in some way.
Julianne, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask Scott if he checked on the numbers. So it's 6 at large, 1 from school, 1 from Council on Aging, and 1 from where?
Be it administration. I haven't had a chance to look that up, but I believe that's the case. I'll continue to try to.
But administration do they vote? That's unusual.
I just got to look up the charter again. As soon as I can get the charter, I'll get it.
Okay. Is Becca a voting member? Does anybody know? I mean, we always have staff present, but I've never seen them vote.
It varies. It depends on what the committee is, how it's set up. It depends on the charge that was approved, essentially.
John, did you have your hand up before for additional input? Okay.
We'll let you guys decide on this one. I was just going to say, look, if you get a quorum of the committee going, in my opinion, maybe the appropriate thing is have the committee decide how they're going to recruit and what they think they need for recruitment. But I do think it's important to get them going, but it's not going to. it's not going, there's nothing so time sensitive. So, I mean, it's just, it's up to the board. It's the bottom.
Yeah, I see Christian's point about an advantage that we have now with this board is we're creating it from scratch. And we have the ability to craft, in this case, diversity is extra important for this board. We have the ability to craft the most diverse board and appropriate board as a whole that we can, given the applicants that have been provided. And that does not necessarily mean person A is better or worse than person B, but in the collective whole, there might be, if we get some additional applicants, there might be some representation of the community that we don't have right now. It is not a guarantee we'll get that representation, and I don't want to hold this committee up forever while we wait for that. But I hadn't thought about that until this discussion. So I appreciate that input. My inclination is let's try to wait just a little bit longer. And I appreciate Kristen's volunteering to do some outreach. That's something that we could probably always do is look for really good and interested people that are not currently involved in local government and get them involved. Jason.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that if we're going to not act tonight, and if we are going to hold out for more applicants or something, then that needs to be, communicated and open to the entire public, not a question
Yes.
of members going out and strong arming, potentially disinterested people who are doing it because they got strong armed and not because they had a natural inclination to participate. So I would ask that we at least formally reopen it, communicate that, perhaps reach out to the members of the original ad hoc committee to see what their perspectives might be in terms of representation and perhaps members themselves or other people that they know that might be interested or might be at least persuaded to apply. I think it would be best. I think the members of the original committee would be in the best position to evaluate.
Kristen.
Yes, I 100% agree with Jason, and I'm very flattered that he thinks I could strong arm people. But no, the rest of what he says were all things that I was actually thinking. And also, I think it would be just out of politeness appropriate to reach out to the people, the 5. There's really four, and then Miriam, who was on the committee before, and just let them know what we're doing, because I don't see them in attendees. They might be watching on YouTube, but they might not. I just so they understand, like, we very much appreciate that they've applied, and just explain politely what's happening and how we're just reaching out to, because if they are going to be great members of this committee, this will help them too, to have a committee that is as representative as we can get it to be, but also a safe space for them, also a place where they can feel comfortable saying whatever they want to say, because we definitely we gave it a lot of thought, and it's it's the best we can do. Right. So, yeah.
Okay, John.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I pulled up the charge that was approved by the Board of Selectmen when this committee was created. It's 9 voting members, which would include the Assistant Town Administrator, the School Department's Coalition, a member of the School Department's Coalition for Equity, a representative from the Council on Aging, and 6 members at large. So 9 members all voting.
Okay.
So is the Assistant Town Administrator always going to be a voting member of this committee?
The way it's structured, it's the membership shall include the town administrator or his or her designee.
Okay, so it's someone you designate. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
Which in this case would be Becca.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Julianne.
I vaguely remember at the time also, we had a selectman liaison person. Is that person not a voting member then?
Liaisons are generally not voting members. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I think we have general consensus on holding this open for, do we want to go 30 days again?
I think you'd have to. Yeah.
Okay. And in difference to the zoning board appointment process that we just discussed, we are not expecting, if I understand correctly, to have to re-interview anybody. That the interviews that have been conducted, you're not hearing anyone think otherwise, are already on the books, and no one should feel that they are excluded as a result of this. This is simply to widen the pool a little bit for the board's consideration as far as how to craft the entirety of this committee. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I may have misunderstood. Mitch, maybe I heard it wrong, but I thought you referred to ZBA as opposed to DEIB. Is that?
Well, no, I was referring to the ZBA appointment process that we talked about in the prior agenda item, where we are going to be re-interviewing and saying this is different.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Misunderstood.
I apologize if that was not clear in the way I phrased that. Okay. All right. Sounds like we're good on this item. Now we're on to the always confrontational issue of execution of cemetery deeds. Mr. Motion for the evening.
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to execute cemetery deeds 1144, 1145, 1146, and 1147.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Jason, seconded by Scott. Any discussion? Scott, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
I vote aye. Vote is unanimous in favor. Thank you very much. And do we have any other business before the board this evening? John or anybody else? If not,
All the business this evening, other than a brief executive session.
Okay, I will entertain the motion to enter executive session. This is the long one you volunteered for.
Yes. Just point of clarification. Does Mitch have to announce the full agenda item before I read the essentially similar or same text? I'm happy to offer the motion.
I think you can streamline it as long as it's made in the motion. That would be adequate.
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Subsection 3, Collective Bargaining Strategy Planning, and Subsection 3, Litigation regarding pending land use litigation, the Gutierrez Company versus Northborough Planning Board Land Court Case Number 21, MISC 000046, the Gutierrez Company versus Northborough Planning Board Land Court Case Number 21, MISC 000380, Isometics Operations Incorporated doing business as Steris AST versus Northborough Planning Board Land Court Case Number 21, MISC 000436, and Abu Construction Incorporated and Ka Realty Incorporated versus Town of Northborough and Northborough Planning Board, Worcester Superior Court Civil Action Number 1985 CV 00178, due to the chair's determination that a discussion regarding these matters in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the board and the town.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded, and I will add that the board will not return to public session following the executive session. Any other discussion before the vote? Julianne, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kristen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jason, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Scott?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Vote is unanimous. We are entering into executive session. Thank you very much. See you soon the other